Christmas, Doctor Who! Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Who Is My Doctor?
Who is my doctor?
Who is indeed. I am your host, Zach, and I know a lot about Doctor Who.
And I'm also your host, Cassie, and I know nothing about Doctor Who.
And Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas indeed. Hey, Happy Christmas, Harry.
Hey, Merry Christmas.
Happy Christmas.
It's a Crimbo special, everybody.
Woohoo!
It is
Jingle jangle bells.
It is the first ever Doctor Who Christmas special, not just for the Revive series, but the classic series didn't have one either.
Really? That's somewhat surprising to me.
Yeah, well, I don't know if this is the reason why, but it certainly feels like it's not the reason why. Doctor Who has kind of a weird relationship with Christmas because the first Doctor had an episode that came out on Christmas, and for some inexplicable reason, William Hartnell turned to the camera and went,
"Incidentally, Happy Christmas to all of you at home."
And then went right back to the story.
Well, breaking the fourth wall. I mean, if any character is going to have the permission to break the fourth wall, the Doctor doesn't feel like a bad choice. However, I can also understand why producers from that moment went, we hates Christmas.
It's just sort of a weird little, like,
We
bump in the
hates
hit.
it.
As far as I'm aware, it is the only time where the character has truly broken the fourth wall, so it's just a little off-putting note in history.
I mean, but then if you follow the canon, then that means that the Doctor is always cognizant about the fact that he is in a television dimension. That's kind of fun.
But this is your first episode proper with many people's Doctor. David Tennant is... I don't know if I could say that it's like... I don't know that he has the most passionate fans, but he certainly, I think, has the most of modern Doctors.
I am not gonna lie. I've been very excited about David Tennant Doctor. Like, ever since we've wrapped up Mr. Christopher Eccleston, I have been more than eager to jump back in and watch these episodes, just because, from my understanding, I have been told by many people that David Tennant is going to be my Doctor. I mean, which makes me a little skeptical as well, just because I have that thing where if somebody says I'm really going to like something, I make it a point to not like it. But I like him in every other context.
And in many ways, this is what made him famous, because this was right, like we talked about how the first season came out the same year the fourth Harry Potter movie came out, where he had a bit part as Barty Crouch Jr.
Oh, that's right. Hello, Father.
And now this is his first really big role. That what really separates David Tennant from Christopher Eccleston is David Tennant grew up as a fan of the show.
Christopher Eccleston wasn't a fan?
I mean, I can't say for sure if he was or wasn't. As far as I'm aware, he wasn't. It wasn't like his bag as a kid.
Interesting.
David Tennant was a huge fan, specifically of the fifth Doctor, Peter Davison.
Is that the one with the big old scarf?
No, that is the one who wears a piece of celery as a lapel.
Aha.
Yes, that was the big old scarf was Tom Baker, who came right before Peter.
Gotcha. I wasn't too far off. I'm getting better.
Yeah, you're not too far. And the scarf is one of the most iconic things.
I'm learning.
Yeah, David Tennant, and he also borrows a lot from Davison's portrayal of it because that was his Doctor. There's some other interesting tidbits we'll get to later on regarding his relationship with Peter Davison. So yeah, David Tennant came in and, he had a lot of very, I don't want to say particular things, but as a fan, he had a lot of influence over the show, influence over the character. We never really watched the credits because I always wanted to cut it off before you saw a preview of the next episode.
Yes.
But Christopher Eccleston was always credited as Doctor Who. David Tennant went, "Don't do that. I'm not Doctor Who. I'm the Doctor." And so starting in this episode, the Doctor is credited as the Doctor.
I mean, that makes more sense because
His name is not Doctor Who.
they say it a couple times I was noticing that they would say Doctor Who a couple times in the previous with Christopher Eccleston, and it felt a little tongue-in-cheek, but never once did he refer to himself.
Yeah,
he would go Doctor Who, and he'd go, exactly.
Yeah, it's sort of a running joke of the show where because he doesn't have a last name, people go, "What do you mean the Doctor? Doctor Who?" And he never has an answer to that question. But this is your first story with David Tennant. It is the Christmas invasion, and he has just finished regenerating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with his new teeth.
His new teeth and his pre-gelled hair.
Hey, you know what? There are mornings that I wake up with new teeth and pre-gelled hair, and I just have to roll with it.
I don't know if this is true or if this is just a feeling I got, but when they specifically started leaning, as you were pointing out, the more romantic instead of father-daughter, I do think they specifically casted someone that was, half a decade younger than Christopher Eccleston. So they wanted someone who could look a little less awkward as a 19-year-old's romantic interest.
Yeah.
Which, granted, David Tennant is still in his 30s at this time, but he has a very young face.
You know what? There are still... Yeah. There are still people, thanks to a certain collection of good omens, that are thirsty for this motherfucker.
Yeah, every couple years he comes back in some new form or fashion to make people thirst over him again.
Which is so amusing. Because he strikes me as almost an Alan Cumming type, where he's not traditionally attractive. There's just something about these weird little men.
The energy that he gives off. Well, let's find out about the energy he gives off.
Well, hey, I gotta make some predictions here, bud.
I was actually just about to get into that. I do have a couple of little thoughts for you here to chew on.
All right.
So it is a Christmas episode.
Mm-hmm.
In the episode, they get attacked by not one, but two different Christmas icons. I will give you a point if you can guess one of them.
Okay, well, I know it's not Santa because the Doctor has made suggestions and gentle nudges in the past that he's been Santa. So it's not Santa.
Unless the real Santas come after him.
You know what? I don't want you to be right, but I also know after having listened back to a couple of the tidbits and such while you've been editing the previous episodes, there have been a number of times where you say shit like that is supposed to gently DM me into a direction, and I go, that's wrong. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to stare at this set of keys in the escape room.
I never try to nudge you. I don't necessarily try to nudge you in the right direction. Sometimes I'll just nudge you in a direction I think is interesting.
Anyways, I'm going to go with my gut, though, and stick with the Doctor Who is Santa or is Santa adjacent. Some kind of a Santa helper. Uh-oh. No, it might actually be Santa. I've written myself into a corner.
Well, again, I didn't say it specifically. It's a particular piece of Christmas iconography.
Well, I know it's not Kwanzaa bot because that's just Futurama.
Kwanzaa bot.
So I can eliminate Kwanzaa bot. That leaves. So my options are: it is either Chris Pine, Jack Frost, Alec Baldwin, Santa Claus.
I never said it was a person.
Reindeer?
Could be reindeer.
Could be Jesus.
Could be Jesus.
It could be Jeepers. Okay, can you repeat the question?
Resurrect this motherfucker.
Can you...
Repeat the question?
Yeah.
So in the episode, they are attacked by two different pieces of Christmas iconography. So in this case, iconography just means an image in some way that you associate with Christmas.
Okay. An angel?
Okay, it could be an angel.
No! Gingerbread man. I changed it.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like a gingerbread person.
And for reference, I'll give you a point I'll let you guess two, and I'll give you a point if either one is right.
Okay, so gingerbread person, Because if I've learned anything, it's that sometimes stupid inanimate objects come to life. Be it trash can or mannequin, things like to come to life.
You're really hedging your bets with gingerbread person in case the gingerbread man has tits.
Well, no, because gingerbread man is actually rather sexist. Gingerbread person, a ginger folk, if you will, not to be confused with any redheaded person. That's a ginger folk as well. Or people that are made out of the spice ginger. But I digress. So it's going to be either a gingerbread person or a reindeer.
So reindeer and gingerbread person are the two things you're putting in there. And then this episode also sees the return of one Harriet Jones from your favorite episodes of the last season.
Oh, yeah.
How do you
I do like Harriet Jones.
And Christopher Eccleston remarked that she becomes prime minister in the next golden age of the UK. But that was a doctor ago. How do you think David Tennant will get along with Harriet Jones?
That was a doctor ago. Well, because if they're all part of the same doctor network, his relationship will not have changed with her, but her relationship with him will change. Interesting.
Can you not be more specific, but be a little maybe?
Well, because if the doctor remains the same, like
the way I've described it is they all have the same dials. They might just be notated at different levels.
It's the way that my understanding of the doctor is that body different, brain same.
More or less.
Simplest, most broken down terms. Therefore, any relationship that the doctor has with somebody will stay the same. The doctor's understanding of that person will stay the same, and the doctor's relationship with that person. However, that person's understanding and relationship with the doctor is inherently different because they are different appearing people.
Okay, so maybe let's find a way just to notate it maybe a little more simply for the purposes of our game here. Do you think that their relationship will be more positive or more negative this time compared to the first time they were with each other?
I feel like more positive, since when last the doctor interacted with Harriet, he remembered how he knew her as the Prime Minister of England. Yes.
Yes. Well, at the time she was just a member of Parliament.
that's the entire time in that first episode. He was scratching his brain trying to figure out how he recognized her, where he knew her from. And then by the end of that realized, like, oh, she becomes this very influential person. Mm-hmm. And doesn't seem to have a negative reaction towards that. And even the sound editing around it is very victorious sounding and happy. So there is no indication to us as the audience that Harriet is bad at her job as Prime Minister.
Yeah.
So I think that the doctor's relationship with her is going to be positive.
Well, let's find out together as you and I sit down and watch our little Christmas special with our little hot cocoa and our little gingerbread people.
Ooh, hot.
And watch The Christmas Invasion from 2005. This episode of Who Is My Doctor is brought to you by Fire. And we are back from the Christmas Invasion.
I was right about all of the wrong things.
Yeah, there were many times during the episode you guessed something would happen that seemed ridiculous. And you were right, but unfortunately the Cassie Profassi today was 0 for 2.
Oh my goodness. I was right until the very end.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, unfortunately the things that attacked our companions in this were Santas and a tree. They were not gingerbread man.
To be fair, I didn't even say tree as an option.
Yeah.
So I would have never gotten that one right. But I did say Santa.
And you dove around that. You said Santa a lot, and you kept diving around
Santa,
like, no, it's not a Santa.
Santa.
But in fact, it was 3 Santas.
Oh my god, it was 3 mannequin-looking motherfucker Santas.
I did appreciate, because as someone who used to play trombone...
Santa?
Not Santa, but as someone who used to play trombone in high school and college, there's not a part of anyone that's ever held a trumpet, trombone, or tuba and not pictured it as being a very weird-looking gun.
Yeah, I only play stringed instruments, so I'll take your word for it, buddy.
Because, especially, I was a trombone player, so it was weird that they had the trombone be a flamethrower. I thought that was a little weird.
Oh, I loved that.
Especially when the trombone is one of the only ones that could be a pump-action shotgun. It's the only instrument that's got a to it.
Yeah, but it also has makes sort of a wah shape at the end, and wah shapes are really good for throwing flames out of.
We have our first Christmas special and our first episode here with David Tennant.
Oh my god, I know what I said earlier. I'm now gonna add the addition of David Tennant as baby girl.
What do you mean by that?
Goodness, he's just baby girl. I don't know. He's not a little guy. He's baby girl. Do I need to explain colloquialisms to you?
That makes sense to me, I suppose. I did find it kind of amusing that the last episode ends with him going, yes, let's go to Barcelona. Cut to him just like staggering out of the TARDIS in present day Earth. It was like, hi everybody, how's it going? I got a new face. Merry Christmas.
I don't know what I was expecting, but I was really happy that he was still in the leather jacket, even though it's like, narratively speaking, that makes perfect sense that he's still in the leather jacket. That's what he was just wearing.
Yeah, but I think just because doctors become so married to their, outfit, that you sort of forget that they can wear other things.
But it's also because, David Tennant's just a little bit mousier than Christopher Eccleston. The jacket itself fit him kind of big.
Yeah, it very clearly is not his jacket.
No, it very clearly was probably Eccleston's jacket that they just went, here, Tennant, you wear this.
Oh, I wonder if they may have even got one that was a little bigger just to emphasize how small he is comparatively.
But I've been picking up new things. The way that, and I suppose it might change in later episodes, but the TARDIS didn't just kind of appear. It spun in on us.
Yeah, when it appears, it's sort of, that's the way it's supposed to arrive in places. Sometimes things can happen and it will have a bumpier landing.
But I like, too, that this was all... It did feel a little bit more like they went, hey, gang, we have a much bigger budget, so now things don't look like they're still in rendering stages, baby. Things look finished.
Yeah, a lot of the effects... And it's partly, I'm sure, because this is a special, so it can have its own budget separate from the rest of the show, whereas the rest of the show has to have its budget spread across 13 episodes. This can feel a little bit more like, we can set aside money for this one project very specifically, so we know going into it what we can accomplish, and we're not overshooting our bounds.
So I am curious to see then in future episodes what the TARDIS looks like coming in. And I also noticed new-ish intro theme music song.
Yeah,
I picked up that, and I also noticed that there were more instruments. I had that thought all on my own. No help from you. See, the joke there, folks, is I did pick up on that, and then Zach had to tell me that it was more instruments, to which I went, oh, that makes way more sense.
It's not just more instruments. They've also added what's called a middle eight to it, which is sort of like a bridge, where it's just a slightly modified version of what we've already or not slightly modified. It's a significantly modified melody from what we've heard. So there's a chunk of the song that is different now. But yes, the orchestra does seem to get bigger and bigger as the show keeps going, which is a fun little detail.
Before we know it, it's every instrument on Earth playing at once. Just so discordant.
I mean, the one thing that's really nice is they never really lose the theremin, which I feel like is so integral to the theme song here. That's what gives it the spirit. One thing that's really interesting to me about this being David Tennant's first story is that he's not in it a whole lot. In fact, that's kind of the central conflict, is that the Doctor is not present. He is napping. He is resting and rejuvenating.
The Doctor is literally out.
Yeah.
He wakes up for 30 seconds to use the sonic screwdriver to kill a tree, and then says, "You woke me up too early." Passes back out. All the while, he is exuding balls of energy. I would just like to put that back out there, that I was also correct. I've been correct about that this whole time.
I agree and disagree. The Doctor has always had like a physical form. It's not like they weren't birthed as a ball of energy and gain a form.
I recognize that, but also if we want to get really philosophical, we as like people, as human beings, like our bodies are not even our souls. They are not like us essence. Like when I die, my energy goes back into the universe. My body decomposes and becomes other forms of energy. Therefore, the Doctor being energy itself has backup, has actual like scientific backing. So I still stand by, I am very correct in saying that the Doctor is a ball of energy. Case opened and shut.
Let's instead actually talk about the absence of the Doctor, because they do make a really good use of him being out of commission, especially considering that you don't know anything about David Tennant's Doctor. And if you don't know much about Doctor Who, period, this is a very weird moment where your main character just changed actors and now they're asleep. And just to make it extra weird, they also started like detaching comfort levels from the show. Like if you don't understand the aliens anymore, and neither does Rose or anybody else that's been...
Even the TARDIS is out of commission.
Yeah, so the TARDIS is out of commission, so there's a part of it where it's like...
There's no Captain Jack!
Yeah, you're really removed from your comfort zone quite a bit. And I thought that was a really clever way of... Even after you've like left this episode, watch more of the show, and come back to it, it lets you come back into the vibe where you were when you first watched it, and you're having to adjust to this new period, because... there's something beyond just the story that is making you do that.
I do understand now why you look at this as the beginning of, like, season 2.
Yeah.
It does feel very interim. It's a little ambiguous.
Yeah.
Which I kind of feel is the vibe overall. But I don't think it should be tacked on to the end of season 1. I think it very well should be the beginning of season 2.
Because that's where it feels, especially with the end of this episode being, the Doctor, like, we're going on new adventures now. Like, that feels like...
It feels like Rick and Morty. 100 years, Rick and Morty.
A little bit.
In the stars. Doc and Rose.
We also have our villains for the episode, the Sycorax.
The styrofoam, yes.
The styrofoam. The sycophants.
Whenever Sycorax would come up on the screen, my dyslexia was like, that's not how you spell styrofoam. Just because of the S and the Y. And
yeah. What did you think about the Sycorax?
I think they looked great.
They had this they had the bone helmets, obviously, but then you look at them and they're just like all muscle. They don't seem to have... skin as we think of it.
When they have their little helmets on, they do look kind of doofy. They kind of look like in Beetlejuice, when Alec Baldwin Beetlejuice man, when they're putting on the scary faces. And
Hi, I'm Alec Baldwin Beetlejuice man.
Thank you.
Attorney at law.
But it just kind of gave me like goofy, silly, like Danny Elfman, Tim Burton vibes. But then, because I didn't realize that was a mask, I was like, oh, okay, these are aliens with a very like stupid looking exoskeleton. Fine. But then he removes the mask to reveal these like yellow, orange eyes, pointed teeth. There's still that like bone exoskeleton, but like you're saying, there's also this like muscle sort of like membrane. It's kind of gross and icky. Like definitely does not look human. I mean, still humanoid shape, because that's just kind of the downfall of putting a human being in prosthetics, is no matter what you do structurally, if you want to convey any kind of performance, people will always look like people. However,
well, in some ways, like with that bone framing to the face and the muscle kind of texture underneath it, they almost feel like they're like outside people. Like they've been turned inside out, where their bones are on the outside and their muscles on the inside of that.
I can see that. Yeah.
It's obviously not 1-to-1. Like they're not sitting around with a stomach sitting around somewhere. But there's something about it where it's just familiar enough to make you uncomfortable, but not so much that it feels like
they're not meant
fantastical.
to look like bugs. They don't look like deep sea fish or some things that come from Earth, but that we look at and say, ooh, that looks like something from another world. Like, yeah. They don't have any of those properties, but because of that, there is an unsettling familiarity that I rather liked. And I really liked that their color palette was all very, like, dirt, red, orange.
Especially because they talked about part of what brought them there was a probe that was sent out to take pictures of Mars. Mm-hmm. So there's something about it that still like makes it feel, be careful what you wish for. You wanted to see pictures of red dirt? Well, bad news.
That, and it just, the fact that they refer to Rose as the yellow one.
Yeah, the yellow human, or the yellow girl.
Yeah.
Let's talk about her now. So Rose spends most of this episode effectively having a mental breakdown, because her doctor is gone.
He's gone, but he's not.
Yeah.
It's an internal battle of, I recognize this person as the same person, but they do not look the same. Therefore, they are a stranger. But
he's also seems to actively be dying.
She even says that she forgets sometimes that he's not human.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing for her, is having to constantly remind herself he's not human. He has two hearts. And Jackie makes a comment along the lines of like, oh, stop messing around. And she's just like, hey, you know what? This is just how he is.
Yeah. Mickey and Jackie don't seem to do too much this episode. They felt a little...
Mickey goes back onto his bullshit about being upset that Rose isn't into him, and Rose being like, hey, dude, there's a big world out there. There's so much to see. So much more than I can get here. Also, she doesn't have to fucking work. She doesn't have to make money.
Yeah.
She's not part of a cog.
Yeah.
And I suppose that there's a part of Mickey that, you know, if you're looking at it in that context, is jealous of Rose, that she gets to do this, like, awesome thing with this, like, whimsical being that is the doctor. Whereas he stays behind, and he's upset that she's not choosing to stay behind with them. But why would you?
It's like watching Alice constantly go back into Wonderland, and you never know when she's going to come back out.
Yeah, because once you've seen what else can be out there, like, why would you go back?
And I really think that the way Rose treats Mickey is part of the reason why people really start to dislike her. Because granted, Mickey really should just be able to take no for an answer. He keeps coming back to her, and she keeps, like, shutting him down, and he keeps doing it again and again.
Well, the upsetting part for that is the fact that, like, they're very clearly good friends. Like, at the very end of the episode, when spoilers, I suppose, when the ship leaves, she's like, they're jumping up and down for joy. Like, she jumps on his back and is like, riding around on him, like on piggyback, which, you know, is something that you do with your friends, especially when they're so strong. But you can very clearly tell that they're friends, and for whatever reason, Rose is, like, they're still hung up on each other, despite the fact that they've both basically made the agreement with each other that they will never happen because of the particular road that Rose is traveling on. It's a bit annoying just because it feels like Mickey has to have this revelation every goddamn episode that he's in.
Yeah.
Like, because I feel like there was some kind of agreement and some kind of, like, yes, this thing will never happen. We both need to move on. In the
parting of the ways.
Yes, thank you. It felt like that was the episode where it was like, all right, cool. They've buried the hatchet. They were going to move on. They're going to do their own thing. Needless to say, when Mickey showed up in this episode, I was kind of happy to see him.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. But then he goes back on to being upset and hung up on Rose.
Let's do Christmas, just two of us.
You stop talking about tortoise this, tortoise that.
Like, Mickey, are you so blue-balled that your ex pops up, like, texts you up at Christmas, and you're like, hell yeah.
Well, that, it's also like, imagine you've gone on this really fabulous, like, worldwide vacation. You're seeing all these marvelous things that you're just so excited to share with all of your friends and family, and you just want to tell them all about this awesome trip that you're having, but then your friend is really angry that you're excited about the trip that you go on and gives you grief about talking about the trip you went on. It's a metaphor, but Rose is going out and seeing these worlds and, you know, in the TARDIS and exploring and discovering new parts of the TARDIS, and he's upset that she's talking about these cool things she has going on and, like, shuts her down. Like, dude, she's just excited. Like, what are you gonna talk about? The fucking car repair shop that you work at? Like, some silly bullshit your coworker did?
Yeah.
Like, Rose's coworker happens to be something of a love interest now, I guess. No longer father figure. I was right for that and then wrong and continue to be wrong, but you know what, when you got baby girl baby Tennant baby girl David Tennant, it's a little bit easier to say this man is not my father.
Yeah.
Yeah, she gets to hold his weird spider hands.
It's very unfortunate that they walked back that plot, that, like, resolution already. It felt like he had come to a really good character place.
Yeah.
Just for him to circle the drain.
Now, I do wonder if that's because this is almost a one-off special, even though it is attached to both season 1 and then season 2. But it is kind of its own thing. I do wonder if they wrote in elements like that to remind you if it's been a minute since you've watched season 1, or if you didn't tune in for season 1, you don't know anything. And this is where you're starting.
I mean, that's very possible.
There's hype around it. People are excited it's back and are saying all of these great and marvelous things. You know what? The world is now, it's 2005, so, you know, social media isn't huge quite yet. If you have something that you're watching, and excited to tell people about it, you're telling them about it in person. You're not seeing anything on the internet.
Yeah.
So there is a very good there is a very good and very probable reality where this is meant to rope people in who either were not interested before, and this is the first thing that they're seeing. Which, if that's the case, then brava. This does a very decent job at letting you see into, like, very basic character traits for, you know, the core cast, which at this point I feel like is Jackie and Mickey as the Earthbound cast, and then Rose and the Doctor up in the sky. I give it a little bit of leeway and a bit of forgiveness for that fact, and that fact alone, that this does definitely feels like this is a new doctor. This is a different doctor. Here's an introduction to everything that you've missed.
Yeah.
And then for those who are returning, here's a couple bones for you to, here's Harriet Jones. You remember her. You love her. She loves Rose. Oh, we're all happy.
She's from your favorite episode with the farting aliens.
Hey. She was the only good part of that episode, dude.
And she continues being a really good element in this episode.
She's so lovable until Torchwood.
Yeah, she ends up being a prime minister that's like apparently got the country everyone's making more money.
It's the golden age of Europe, or the Britain.
The golden age of Britain. But yeah, Jackie's mom says that she's making like $20 more a week. She goes
quid, not dollars.
18 quid, but a quid is a pound, so it's 18 pounds, about $20. Then she goes around the office, and when someone talks to her, she makes sure to learn their name. It's a very personable, idealistic kind of prime minister. She was very concerned about like the personal element to being a politician and a leader, where she wants to. Which I don't know how well that works in reality. I don't know if there is something true to like, as long as I keep thinking about the people I'm serving, everything will go well.
Hey, Zach, this is make-believe.
Yeah. Well, that's what I say is like, I don't know how true it is in real life, but I get what they're going for and I appreciate it. But they still make it a pretty believable decision at the end.
Well, it's so upsetting because when she sees Rose, she doesn't just go, "Oh, I recognize you." They run into each other for such a, like, loving embrace of people that, granted they did save the world together. They did spend a significant time, albeit short time together, but impactful nonetheless. And so when you see that, it's like, oh, look at that. Like, she's so sweet. She's so sweet and so kind and loving and, recognizes that she's not the right person to, talk down this alien race. She implores the doctor to help her.
Yeah.
She goes out of her way to ask for help from somebody who she knows will be able to help her.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm sure that we'll touch on it a little bit more in a minute, but despite him looking different, he is able to very quickly convince her that he's the same, and she goes, my doctor.
I also want to say they do have her deliver one of the most British jokes I've ever heard. So they establish in the episode that the Sycorax are using blood control, and so they've controlled everyone with A positive blood on the planet. And so Harriet Jones, delivering that message, looks off to the side and says, do we have an update on the royal family? Come to find out, they're all on the roof. Which is, the joke to me is that they established that it is not something that husbands and wives necessarily do, but it is something, fathers and sons, mothers and daughters, brothers and sisters, they were collectively. I was like, is that an inbreeding joke? That feels a little like an inbreeding joke.
I took it as an inbreeding joke, for sure.
All of them. The entire royal family is all up there.
Particularly since it's very prominent on her desk, a picture of the Queen.
Yeah. That was one of the moments where I was like, this feels weird, especially when you're in the middle of like addressing mass suicide for Christmas.
Well, that's what they're assuming it is.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Everyone's lined up on the top of a building right now, ready to jump.
It's lined up. They want uppies.
They want uppies. Well, I think we've addressed everything else in the episode,
except for one thing, Zachary. Do you know what that one thing is that we have not quite addressed?
What would that be, Cassie?
The food that Jackie decides that she's going to bring with her into the TARDIS, because Rose makes the decision they have to pick up the doctor and move him into the TARDIS, and the four of them are going to take refuge in there because, as far as Rose can tell, they're going to be under alien siege. So she tells her mom, get some food, we're going to all head into the TARDIS. And the thing that she makes sure to grab, yet another very British thing, is a hot thermos full of tea.
And you had joked to me, oh, is he going to smell the tea and wake up?
Yeah, I did make that joke, didn't I?
You did make that joke.
Yeah, no, very big in my notes. I write, right about the fucking tea, ladies and gents, and nothing else.
Yes.
I was right about because it's not even just the tea. It's not even that it's like, oh, they left it out. It's the fact that it, like, spills over and gets into some kind of heating compartment, some kind of, like, hot spot underneath the TARDIS, and starts steaming upwards towards the Doctor, towards his available nostrils. At which time, then, at some point, he wakes up, and then as the audience, you don't know if it was the tea or not. You could just assume, it's TARDIS magic. But no. I have not gotten there yet, Zachary. Let me finish. He then makes a very loud announcement that it was the tea that woke him up. The tea that woke him up.
Tea! That's all I needed. Good cup of tea. Superheated infusion of free radicals and tannin, just the thing for heating the synapses.
Well, even before that, as the steam is rising around him, you hear her go, as he takes in a big whiff of the tea.
I'm so angry that I don't get nothing for that.
I had been so tempted to make one of the questions about what wakes the Doctor up, but I didn't want to spoil for you that the Doctor spends, like, 80% of the episode unconscious.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have guessed tea for that. I have to remind myself sometimes I don't need to think very hard about this show. Sometimes the easiest answer is going to be the most correct answer. And you know what? I was almost right about Santa, and I was right about the goddamn tea the second she pulled it out. What is it? The second she pulled out the Chekhov's gun thermos of tea.
Chekhov's thermos.
Anyways, that's my whole rant.
But yes, that is what wakes up the Doctor, and we meet David Tennant's Doctor, I think, properly for the first time, because the first time he wakes up, it's more just like an exposition dump.
It's discordant.
He's just like, I still don't feel well, and also there's a threat coming. Here, there's an apple in my pocket.
There's an apple in the pocket. There's an orange in his pocket.
There's a whole fruit salad going on in that pocket.
Yum.
But yeah, but we first meet the Doctor in one of, I think, one of the most fun ways for the Doctor to come in and save the day.
Because they even do it, they did kind of a fun thing with framing where it was a little cartoonish, but in a way that I really appreciated, where they had, like, different planes of individuals, and each time the camera passed by, they would dramatically turn towards the TARDIS.
Well, even before that, they had established that they couldn't understand the Sycorax, so they have a translator. They have, like, a translating machine doing it for them, but eventually the translator and the Sycorax are both saying the same thing in English.
And then the Sycorax get upset because they don't speak English. They only speak Sycorax.
And that's the moment where, which I thought was very clever. I thought it was a very clever way to...
I did like that, because if you're not paying it very close attention, you don't catch it. Yeah. And it isn't until it dawns on everybody else. Hang on. This is all in English now. And Rose said that she could usually understand alien language only when the TARDIS was functional, and when it is not functional, because the Doctor is, for all intents and purposes, dead, the second that she starts understanding again.
There's something about it that feels like maybe the TARDIS... Because the TARDIS and the Doctor aren't, like, the same being. So there's a part of me that almost feels like, what if the TARDIS is, like, in mourning?
Oh my god, wait. What if the TARDIS woke up with the tea, too? It all makes sense.
Before that, it was just an artist. It needed to be a TARDIS.
Whoa.
But yes, she just goes, wait, if I can understand you, that means the TARDIS is working. And if the TARDIS is working, then that means... And they all make a big dramatic turn, and he opens up the doors, and it's just like... Did you miss me? fucking cheese ball intro.
I adored it.
Yeah, I was...
I'm hooked. He's got me.
He spends a good chunk of time, like, expressing that he doesn't know who he is yet, that he's still sort of like...
Is he a coward? Is he sarcastic? Is he frightened?
Is he rude? Is he ginger?
Am I ginger?
I loved that he was so angry that he wasn't a ginger. It's so funny.
Yeah.
And this is also coming from somebody who, when I was in high school, a little fun backstory, Cassie time. When I was in high school, I wanted to be a ginger so bad. I thought it was so cool, mostly because I was going through like a Shaun White thing. So I was like, oh my God, I want this like natural, unnatural hair. I did I was able to lighten it enough that I could dye it with henna. So it did turn like a little orange. Mm-hmm. So I was very proud of myself for that. But that resonated with me on a very personal note of wanting to wake up and be a ginger.
He walks around, he's like, says something rude. He's like, oh, am I rude now? Rude and not ginger. Like, although he starts like just checking off all the list of things he could be.
It's very much talking to himself with literally like 6 other humans and then just a cavalcade of Sycorax aliens as he's going on this like very fast journey of self-discovery.
What's kind of fun about it is that it shows that the Sycorax are very strong, but they are pathetic in comparison to the Doctor, who basically defeats their entire plan with the press of one button. A button that he keeps being like, oh, that's a big button. I want to push that button.
They're simple-minded.
Yeah.
As is the Doctor, but in a very different way.
Yeah. There's something about...
Because in this moment, the Doctor is going through a transition of sorts. He's going through a stage of discovery and self-discovery. So there's almost like a childlike charm to that.
I do think, because the Doctor
His
does go through a
wide-eyed wonderment.
Yeah, I do think that the Doctor goes through a journey, so he's not always exactly the same. But I do think David Tennant at this point is not unlike a dog, where he's just like, oh, I'm going to just look around here and see what's going on.
Now, I do like that there were some callbacks, for lack of a better term.
Oh, yeah, when you're talking about when Rose was trying to use all of her various trivial knowledge that she's picked up to try and trick the Sycorax.
That's so cute. That also feels like... It feels like when you're really just trying to prove to somebody that you know what you're talking about, so you throw every big word you can think of about a topic. Don't know why I found that endearing.
I was a little
certainly not.
It was a little weird that she did choose to call out like on the order of the Daleks. Like, what?
Every word. She did seem really proud of herself for saying Max effects of Cornucopoulos.
Max effects of Cornucopoulos, exactly.
Did I get it?
No, it's Rexicoricofallapatorius.
Rexicon.
T-Rex planet.
I did it.
What were the other references that you were catching?
I mean, it is jumping ahead a little bit, but as the Doctor, after their little like sword duel and the one styrofoam Sycorax is coming up behind him to stab him, he throws the Satsuma he found in his pocket at another big button, like dismantling a platform that the one alien was standing on, and he falls to his death, and it goes, no second chances. Which is very, like, because we saw the Doctor in the previous season giving people second chances and immediately having them turn.
Yeah.
Like, we saw that with Dalek. We saw that with the Slitheen. Those are the only 2 examples I can pull from the ether at the moment, which, hey, you know what? That's 2 that I didn't think about for very long. Good job, Cass. You are learning. But it's very clear that David Tennant's doctor, this doctor, is the same. And I don't want to make it sound like, oh, he learned, but it's a, like, there is a sort of, like, he's learned from his own past.
I do think there's something about where a lot of, especially the modern doctors, each one is sort of a response to the one previous. Not necessarily learning from their mistakes, but taking some of the things that doctor wanted to be or couldn't quite be and learning from them. So I think there will be, we'll see more of that as it goes on. But I think you're onto something there with this no second chances thing is a thing the 10th Doctor learned from the 9th Doctor's mistakes. From the 9th Doctor's
like empathy.
Yeah, like the 10th Doctor is a little less, I don't know how to describe it, a little, I don't want to say human, but they're a little less soft in some ways. They're more of a bouncy energy.
I say, like, this 10th Doctor does feel very, like, excited and,
yeah,
you know, just, like, interested in learning and interested in seeing what's new and, you know, re-meeting people, re-establishing relationships. And but there's also the part that's, like, I think the thing, and, you know, we'll see it eventually, or I'm sure I'll see it eventually. And I'm curious to see, because the one thing that I really liked about Christopher Eccleston is the fact that he did play the very, like, naive, happy-go-lucky, but, like, the minute that he finds Dalek, he turns, and there's years and eons of just sadness and grief that come out in that moment. And I'm very excited to see 10th Doctor have that moment.
Okay. Well, because there's definitely a few of those. We've already talked about the Daleks, but there's the Doctor has sort of 3 different arch nemeses. The Daleks are one of them, and we'll meet the second of 2 later in this season.
Cool.
And the third one is the season after that, but we'll get to those as we come to them. But you'll definitely have moments where the Doctor has to have other moments with these villains.
Cool.
But speaking of moments with villains,
fighting hand, baby.
Yeah, I was just like, this feels weird to watch the Doctor have a sword fight.
I loved it. I don't think we use swords enough.
It does feel a little like, did David Tennant just specifically demand, I will play the Doctor only if I can have a sword fight in my pajamas?
Considering that his sonic weapon of choice is a screwdriver, it does not surprise me that he would have a sword fight. That feels very appropriate for him. Captain Jack is the one that would have gunfight.
Yeah.
The Doctor is a melee type of guy.
I mean, this might be funny for you. The 3rd Doctor specifically used martial arts.
Hell yeah.
It wasn't like a human one. I'm blanking. I want to look it up real quick because it's funny.
It wasn't a human one.
Yeah, he used what's called Venusian Aikido. So it's the karate of Venus.
Wow.
Venusian Aikido, Venusian karate. That was what the third Doctor was the first one who used it. He was more action guy, stuntman, James Bond type of Doctor. And so it's come up for other Doctors, but I can't decide if that would be more or less weird than the sword fight with David Tennant if he had just gotten into hand-to-hand
unarmed
combat.
Attack.
Yeah.
Considering that this is an alien race that we've never seen before, I think it would be very, very off-putting and out of character. If it was not only is this an alien race that we've never seen before, but we're also seeing this Doctor fight with his fists, considering that David Tennant is a little bit soft. He's a little gangly.
Yeah, he's a bit of a gangly bean.
Just a bit of a noodle man. So it would be a little silly to see him doing unarmed attacks as opposed to wielding a finesse weapon.
Yeah, I could understand that for sure.
Plus, swords are fun. Punching is for brothers and sisters only.
But yeah, in the sword fight though, he does have his hand cut off.
Yeah, but like a lizard, he can regenerate since it's still within the 15-hour window.
But I don't... There's just the doctor's hand just landed somewhere on the ground.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff that just kind of lands on the ground. There's a sword falling from the sky that's going to pierce somebody's nice home.
Yeah, it's kind of funny to think that just somewhere someone has just like... It's just David Tennant's hand?
What is this spider of a hand? Huh. And what's this, a sword? And what's this over here? An alien man crushed to smithereens.
Yeah, it's...
Alert the presses.
Yeah, although you kind of got to wonder, if you were to divide a doctor like in half because they have two hearts while they're in that first 15 hours of regeneration, would you just get two doctors?
Oh my god, we could just have, what's the word I'm thinking of? Like starfish.
Oh, yeah. Where if you cut a starfish in a certain way, they'll grow limbs in both places. Yeah, or just like double Davids.
Asexual reproduction, is that the word I think that's the phrase
asexual
I'm looking
reproduction.
for. Yeah, so if we want more doctors, all we have to do is wait for them to regenerate and then just slice them in half. 2 doctors for the price of 1.
Yeah,
And then 4 doctors, and then 8 doctors, and then 16.
and each one angrier than the last that you just cut them in half.
64, and then
128.
128. That's where it stops.
We ran out of knives.
Well, because it reminds me of that episode of Futurama where Bender, like, reproduces himself indefinitely.
Yeah.
We could just have microorganism Doctor Who's. That's what makes up the TARDIS, is a bunch of teeny tiny doctors.
We do have the Doctor interacts with Harriet Jones, and they seem really friendly for a little bit.
Oh, yeah. She refers to him as her doctor. And then they call up saying, hey, ma'am, Torchwood is ready. And she goes,
You may fire when ready. And then they fire the fucking Death Star.
yeah.
Like, it's not even a little bit not that. They're a group of green lasers that meet in the middle and then shoot upwards to blow something up. That's the Death Star.
That specifically blow up a spaceship.
And she seems really she seems like she's not super dedicated to it at first. It's sort of the Doctor has to point out that, yeah, you guys are interacting with aliens a lot, and you keep sending up satellites and messages into the air, and you know, people are going to find you. You're being really noisy. Aliens are going to come. And she's like, no. Rather than doing the responsible thing of like preparing for it, she instead decides to blow them up.
This is her preparing for it, though.
Well, no, because
this is her sending a message.
Well, that's the thing, is she's deliberately not. She blew them up because that way they wouldn't go tell others about Earth. Like, it's not about sending a message because no one's going to get it. That is to stop them from telling others about Earth. And the Doctor gets pissed.
But then she accuses him of being alien invader.
And so he says that he can take down her entire political prospects with 6 words.
Now, what were the 6 words?
Don't you think she looks tired?
Oh, that is 6. Okay.
Which there's something about it that's like, I don't think they meant it this way. I'm sure they just meant it as like a general criticism of the political atmosphere that someone being otherwise successful, being lobbied the tiniest of like criticisms could destroy their career. It does feel a little bit like, this is how we treat women.
The number of times I've gone into work being just a little bit sleepy during the day, and one of the freaking guys in the back goes, oh, you look tired. Like, no, that's just how I look. I'm not tired. I'm exhausted.
It's just, don't you think she looks tired? And apparently
but, like, you never
one...
ever say that about a man.
Exactly. Like, I don't see that affecting any man's career. So there's a part of it where it just feels like, that feels a little gross. I don't know if that was intentional, or if it came across how they wanted it to.
I mean, of all the things that you could say, that I feel like is the least offensive.
Yeah.
Because it's not mocking her for, you know, oh, this was an irrational decision because she's on her period, or, oh, she's an older woman, must be menopause. It's, don't you think she looks tired?
And then let the rumor spread from there.
I mean, it still sucks. I'm not defending it, but I am also saying it could be worse.
Yeah, that she immediately has to start defending that she has no health concern. She's doing fine. But it's been, I think, a day.
It's been not even a day, because that was Christmas Eve that all of this stuff is going down. The next day when the news reports are coming out, it's Christmas Day. It's been less than 24 hours.
And suddenly all the news reports are like, they're going to have a vote of no confidence for her because she looks tired and is ill. And I'm like, that sucks. Like, doesn't suck. I mean, it sucks, one, the doctor was the one who did it, but it also sucks that that feels plausible.
Yeah.
That someone could just spread the rumor, don't you think she looks tired? And everyone's like, yeah, I think she might be dying.
Oh my God. She looks ill. She needs to go to hospital. Fashion show. His little.
Oh yeah, at the end of the episode, he finally gets to pick out his outfit.
He picks his little outfit.
And you get to see the TARDIS wardrobe for the first time, and it's huge.
I mean, you saw it before in
They mention it before. You don't physically see it before.
Oh, yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, this is the first time you get to actually see it, and it's huge. It's got a spiral staircase in the middle of it.
Yes, sure.
I mean, when you saw what you looked at, like what I'm sure you perceived was just one level of it. There's a spiral staircase in it going up and down to grab more outfits.
Hey, babe, I'm going to remind you that I worked in a costume warehouse for like 3 years.
Fair, I suppose.
That bitch had 3 levels of costumes that could only be accessed via a 20-foot ladder that you would have to wheel around really awkward. So I know a lot of costumes when I see it. That, not a whole lot. But you know what? It's a lot for you, bud.
Well, I also just meant, like, it's a TARDIS. It can go up and down infinitely. It is not like it is, only 1 to 2 to 3 levels.
But I like his choice.
His brown jacket, his brown suit with the brown jacket over it.
Yeah. In fact, as we were watching it, I went, God damn, I want a long jacket. I want a red one, but that's...
So, fun fact about his outfit. Mm-hmm. While the suit is fairly obviously a pinstripe suit, that long jacket is made from a sofa covering.
Okay, that makes me feel way better, because I've been thinking about making my own jacket out of upholstery like upholstery fabric. Yeah,
the costume designer, they had the suit already figured out, but they wanted something to go over it to match, like the Fourth Doctor's scarf, or the Fifth Doctor had like a cricket jacket that he wore over it. And Tennant, being a huge fan of the Fifth Doctor, wanted to kind of
emulate
that a little bit. And they couldn't figure anything out until the costume designer made a trench coat out of a sofa covering. And so that is that outfit.
Brilliant. Love that.
Yeah, so how did you...
So we have jacket made out of sofa covering, infinite scarf made out of smaller, tinier scarves.
Yes. And a celery lapel.
Celery lapel. The costuming department on the show must have...
One of my favorites is
little time.
One of my other favorite little costume details is the Seventh Doctor walked around with an umbrella, and the handle of the umbrella was shaped like a question mark.
That's fun.
Yeah.
How Riddler.
Yeah, it was very, very Riddler, but there's something about it that feels very like...
Who?
Yeah. He also had his hat.
Doctor?
His hat and his sweater vest also was covered in the same question mark, so it was something very iconic to the Seventh Doctor.
Dr. Riddler?
So you finally met the new Doctor, you get his new outfit, and then we have what I think is genuinely one of the most subtly horrifying things I've ever seen in television. A bunch of people playing in the snow, but it's not snow, that's ash.
It's snow.
Just
it's snow. Shaking my head, no.
I'm just picturing some child I'm gonna make a snowman. Mom, the snow's not staying together.
My favorite idea is I'm going to try to catch it on my tongue.
Honey, why is this snow not cold?
Why is it 80 degrees outside, but snow?
I mean...
As Rose is going, look, meteors. And the Doctor goes, oh, no. That's just a bit of, oh, we didn't touch up on that either.
They're off to
See the wizard.
they're off to go into another adventure. I do enjoy the little touch where he's like, we're gonna go that way. No, that way, and his hand barely moves from where he pointed the first time. There's something about it that's a very fun little touch. But we now officially have our 10th Doctor, rested, recharged, with a nice cup of tea.
You shut up. Shut up about the tea.
How are you feeling about David Tennant going into it compared to Christopher
Baby girl
Eccleston?
David Tennant?
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
I remember you saying
genuinely so excited because also, I don't watch it, but I see a lot of clips from Good Omens, and whatever it is that's David Tennant and Michael Sheen just like video chatting each other. I love those. I don't know what the context is. They just appear on my For You page, and I have such a wonderful time watching that. And so I'm in a spot already where it's like I'm already so like endeared by Michael Tennant.
Michael Tennant and David Sheen.
I'm so immediately endeared by David Tennant.
He's at least built up a reputation as, one of the good ones. I'm sure he's human and he's got his own faults, but in terms of being in the UK when it really seems like it's, become Turf Island, David Tennant's out here like leave trans kids alone. So there's a part of it where, David Tennant seems like a good dude.
Yeah, like there hasn't been any news that has come out that makes either of us go, yipes.
Yeah.
And so I'm generally very excited because I also I like Rose a lot, and I did not realize that she was going to remain a companion. I thought that with each new Doctor came a new companion, like right out the gate. And so I am excited to see their dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, it's not...
And also, like, spoiling it, I suppose, for myself a little bit. Like, I know that Rose is going to leave at some point. And I'm curious to see how that happens. Because so far we've seen her on 3 or 4 separate occasions go, what are you talking about? Like, of course I'm going with.
Yeah.
As long as you'll have me.
So you'll have to see how she departs from the Doctor. But you're overall feeling better about this than you were about Eccleston going into him?
Yeah. Well, I think it's also like a familiarity thing. Because I knew of David Tennant beforehand. Similarly, like whenever we meet Matt Smith, Doctor, because I know those are the only 2 names that I know. Everybody else is a mystery to me. Man,
what I should have done then is before we started watching this, showing you some of Christopher Eccleston's sassy things he said about the Queen of England. Christopher Eccleston hates the British monarchy and hates that it still exists and does not hide it by any stretch, and it's really funny. So maybe I should have shown you some of that before we started. Because otherwise the only thing you might have known Christopher Eccleston for was he was the villain in Thor 2.
I mean, my impression of Christopher Eccleston, and like bear with me on this, he gives me very big Michael Crawford vibes, and by that I mean Michael Crawford, when he was cast as the Phantom in the original running of Phantom of the Opera, was only known for his comedic roles, and was only ever known for being kind of like a like English Dick Van Dyke, very physical comedian, very like tall, gangly. Nobody knew him as a singer. Nobody knew him as a dramatic actor, except for like a handful of like side projects and things that he had done. So when he got cast as Phantom, everybody was like, "Oh, are you sure? Like, are you absolutely positive about that? Like, it's kind of silly casting, but all right." And then like blew everybody out of the water, and that I feel like is everybody's like go-to like Phantom of choice.
Yeah, Christopher Eccleston sort of had like almost the opposite situation where he was a very dramatic actor that came into a very kind of silly role.
That's kind of what I'm getting at, is they had equal and opposite like lives before these roles. And so because I made that connection, like, I do like Eccleston. I think that he's a fine doctor. And, you know, for somebody who's blindly walking into this wacky little world, he is not a bad place to start.
Mm-hmm.
He feels like kind of a prequel doctor, ironically enough, even though I know that there were 8 others that, you know, preceded him, which I do think that there was a moment in time where you showed me one episode.
Yes. I have been not bringing it up for the hopes that you will forget that I did that.
Nope. I remember.
Or rather, let me phrase it. So, hopes that the less I bring up, the less you will remember about that episode.
Everything.
Because there are 3 places so far in New Who that I think are good dropping in points. The first one is Rose, because that's the start of the new show. It was meant to introduce you to the show. I think it's a great jumping on point. I don't really think there's a good place to just jump on with David Tennant, because even this episode sort of needs a lot of like the backstory that you're coming from with the last season. So you can sort of jump on with the next episode, but even that's like you're losing some of the material there with Rose. So the next jumping on point isn't until the 11th Doctor, which is where I first tried to start showing you this before it sort of faded out and we did this podcast instead.
Granted, that was also at the very beginning of the pandemic.
I think it may have been before that, because that was 3 to 4 years ago I showed you this. But I'm glad you're feeling more positive about it, because if I'm being 100% honest, this next season is not my favorite season of the show. There's some really good stuff in it, but for my money, season 2 of Doctor Who is probably the weakest overall season of the show.
Because you're saying that, I am predisposed to find everything in it that I like, because I'm a fan of garbage. So,
well, we will find out together how your taste for garbage compares to mine on the next episode of Who Is My Doctor?
Hey, Zach, who is my doctor?
Let's continue to find out. It might be David Tennant.
Maybe. We'll see.
And that finishes off Who Is My Doctor for the year 2023. I'm really happy with how the show's been going so far, and I hope you have as well. I know we'll keep getting better as we keep going on, and I look forward to you coming along with us. Please give us a like or 5 stars to help us be found by the algorithm. You can follow us on Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, or Threads at WimDpod. That's WIMDPOD. We're taking next week off so I can enjoy the holidays, and I hope you enjoy yours as well. Merry Christmas if you celebrate, and Happy New Year to everyone. We'll be back on Tuesday, January 7th, because even after the holidays, your Tuesdays are now Who's Days.